because that's where we are. All right. Now, listen, when I begin to tell you the things that I'm going to say today, I want each and every one of us to understand that I'm teaching you from my personal life experience. I'm also teaching you from the idea of what is found in the Torah, according to its language and its culture. So I'm giving all that. I'm not just talking to you just to be talking to you and just giving you words out of nowhere. Okay, so I want things to make sense for us so we can understand about this journey that we're on. We're going in a circle. Okay, we're all going in a circle. When we do the Torah portion that you're asked to do during the week, you're actually on a cycle. And guess what, everyone? The circle is never going to change. So it's not like we're on a straight road, like we're going straight and we're just going straight, 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 and we never to turn back and look. The Most High has deliberately put us on a circle, on a track, on a tread in order to teach us. Okay. That's why we go through the cycles. That's why you go through the weekly cycle of the Torah portion. This is the reason why we go through the yearly cycle of the Moedims, which are called the appointed times where we're supposed to meet up with the Most High. We have to come to acknowledge that cycle. Okay. When you're on this path and when you're on this road, you're going around and around and around. The first time that you go around, you see some stuff. The second time you go, you see even more. And the third, you might have missed something on the first one. You see on the second one. We're sheep. So when we go to these areas, that the Most High is guiding us through his words. He's leading us, okay? Through his prophet Moshe, he's leading us and he's directing us in the path that we should go. And on that path, he says, I lead you there for my name's sake. Yes, go ahead.
So the one thing that we want to keep in mind is that uh, we always come back to the same locations we settled on
Yes,
that path.
yes, absolutely. Excellent. So yeah, we come back to the same place that we were on. And so if you weren't on the path, you just got on the path, understand all of us have been on this path before and we've been going around. And if you're new to the path, you're going to go around the same path that we're all going. We're all learning the same thing. Now, the point that I want to bring out is that all because we're all on the same path doesn't mean we're all going to pick up the same thing. When Yah speaks his words to us, it's going to hit each of us differently, even though we're all on the same path. Same Torah, same teaching, same everything, but it's going to hit you different than it might hit somebody else. And you need to be okay with that. So if you hear something that kind of makes you happy, feel good about that. If you feel something that causes you to bring caution and say, whoa, wait a minute, was he talking to me? I'm not pointing nothing directly to nobody. I'm not using this as a platform to tell anybody what I think was going to be with their lives. I'm only telling you what the Most High has expressed in his word through his prophet Moshe. Okay. I know there's people out here to tell us that we're prophets. I already covered this. We're not prophets because the Most High is not speaking to us in a dream or a vision. Numbers chapter number 12. I just heard somebody the other day say, yeah, we're like the prophets because we're regurgitating the words of the prophet. So it makes us a prophet. No, it doesn't. Still want to be religious. Still want to hold on to some type of power. It doesn't make sense. We're in exile, people. So it's not going to be the idea that we're some special people now that the Most High is speaking to us. Why we're in exile. You're not Daniel. I'm not Daniel. I'm not any of the prophets. I'm your brother. And we need to be satisfied with that. You're my brothers. You're my sisters. That's it. There is no leadership. There is none. There is no leadership. Well, there's a whole bunch of these places that have their buildings and they're spending money on that. And they got people making contributions and they got all kind of things with Yah's name on it. And they got hats and they got, posters and signs and they got a great following. They got thousands of people following. That doesn't mean anything to the Most High. It doesn't. It doesn't because the fact is, it's different from his order. This is what he's trying to show us. This is why we're in exile. So we can learn and be able to differentiate and separate between what his ways are and what he said versus what we think. Now, you're going to see an example today of a group of people, okay, who's decided that we're going to do it differently. We're going to do it our way. We're not going to do it his way. We're going to do it the way that we want to see it. So let me go ahead and get started with that. And I'm not going to apologize for my passion. I'm not going to try to, sugarcoat nothing. I'm not into that. You guys should know that by now. I'm not doing that. Okay. And I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm not. I'm just telling you what it is. Okay. Where we are right now, we're in hostility against the Most High Yah. Okay. So you say, well, I'm not in any hostility, Akiku. You tripping. You're tripping, bro. You got this twisted. I'm not in hostility. You might be in hostility, but I'm not in hostility against the Most High. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Well, let's humble ourselves today and ask the Most High to guide us and to give us a better understanding about where we are, who we are, and what we need to do, because this is what this is all about. Okay. Here we go. Can you see my screen? Yes?
Yes.
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 Praise God. I love each and every last one of you, by the way. So don't get it twisted. All right. Let me minimize the screen right here. Here we are. Your Torah portion this week is about an individual by the name of Korach. Okay, it's found in Midbar, chapter number 16, verse number 1 through chapter number 18, verse number 32. It was only chapter 16, chapter 17, chapter 18. There's 3 chapters. I know there's a lot of people that are a little bit ahead of us doing, Balak and they're in the Torah portions. We're all on the same path, everyone. We're all in the same. They're not going to they might get somewhere faster. There's other sheep and other cattle that are moving a little bit faster than we are, right? And that's fine. I want to take our time. I don't want to rush anything. I don't want to do that anymore. Okay. So when the Ashkenazis and the Jewish people and other communities and other people that you see that are a little bit ahead, it's not that I'm trying to cheat you out of anything. I'm just trying to give us a better understanding about what we're going over. So this is our Torah weekly review that we covered this week. Okay, you're going to be in chapter number 16. We had to deal with Korach's revolt, Dathan and Abiram's refusal. Chapter number 17 is about Aaron's staff, and chapter number 18 is the gifts to the Kohanim. That is your summary review. I know I'm moving a little quick today, but it's okay because I just want to get right to it, right? So in chapters number 14, last Torah portion, there was something that was said that kind of brings us into the Torah portion about Korach this week. Okay. And what we find here is that they said, let's appoint a leader and return to Egypt. You always want to find out what was the purpose of your Torah portion. The purpose of all their rebellion, their revolt, and everything is because they don't want to go where Yahweh wants them to go. They don't want to learn from what Yahweh wants to teach them. They don't want Yahweh to be their leader. They don't want Yahweh to be their king. So therefore, they're going to attack everyone that Yah has put in their place. Okay. And so here, I have here the flag of Egypt. So this is their symbol. This is the flag that they have. They want to return to the place of bondage and they want to return to the place of oppression. Okay. You may ask yourself, well, why is this? Well, because when you're oppressed and you are, being, taken advantage of and you're being, enslaved, to them, it's an easier life. A rebel wants to stay in a place where they can do what they want to do with right, and so they really don't have to bear the consequences of saying, hey, I need to change, or my actions have consequences. When you're being oppressed, they're not concerned about your well-being. They're not concerned about what you're learning. They're not concerned about what's going to come for the future generations. You're in a state of being oppressed and you're in a state of not learning. This is to stop you from learning, right? Is to block you from having any progress. That's what oppression is. So they would rather be there and they would rather appoint someone else over them so they can go back to what it used to be. Remember, have they been talking about this the whole time? And so this is a mindset that we're seeing here, that this is what they wanted to do. Let's appoint a leader and return to Egypt. Okay. In your Torah portion, it said that now Korach and the sons of Yitzchar, the son of Kohat, the son of Lewi, along with Dedan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab and On, and the son of Pelet, the descendants of Reuben. They took men and rebelled against Moshe. Siding with them were 250 men of Israel's leaders of the community, key members of the council, men of reputation, men of renown. Okay, had great population, and it was a political party in a sense. And these individuals, the reason why is the tribe of Reuven and the tribe of Lewi, okay, which I want to point this out, is Korach is the priesthood. He wants the priesthood, okay? Dathan and Aviram, which are the descendants of Reuven. So we have Lewi, a descendant of Lewi that's tripping, and we have a descendant from this family, Reuven, who's tripping too. Now, when I put on the side here a picture, I don't know if you can see it, but Reuven is located right here in the southern part of the camp setup, and so are the Kohavs. So all the things that are going on, and Moses and them are right here on the east with the Most High. So they're located at the front door of the tabernacle. Okay. So without going too much in detail about what this is, I just want to point out the fact that the Kohavs and the Reuven families are connected. They're right next to each other. So they're camped right with each other. So while they're in their camps, they're putting together what they would call a coup. And they're deciding that they want to take over. Okay. So they approach with the 250 men, these men of reputation. Another reason why they want to take over is because Reuven, he was the oldest of the sons of Israel, of the 12 tribes, and he lost his right to be the firstborn. But while they were in Egypt, his family was leading in Egypt. When they were in Egypt, I don't have a slide for it. It's in Exodus chapter number 6, the latter part of the chapter. It talks about how Lewi and Reuven were leaders already in Egypt. So when they came out, they figured, well, we're already leaders. We were leading people while we were back in Egypt. So they took advantage of the Most High bringing them out of Egypt, and then when they got to the wilderness, they thought that this leadership, this connection between themselves, uh, you know, to join forces, that they can go against Moses and Aaron because that's who they think they're going against. Okay, but the fact of the matter is they're not appointed against Moses and Aaron. They actually appointed themselves against the Most High, and for whatever reason, they didn't recognize it. Okay. They thought they were rebelling against Moshe, but they weren't. Okay. As you know, when you read your Torah portion this week, it said that Moshe said to Korach, listen here, you sons of Levi. So he is addressing one man on behalf of all the sons of Levi. Okay. Now, Levi had three sons. Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit more about them and their responsibilities later on. But he had three sons. And so Korach is from one of those sons. And so is Moshe. Okay. So what they are, they're blood relatives, they're cousins. Okay. So they're related. So this is a family matter that's going on. So these cousins are tripping like, hey, I'm just as equipped as you are to lead the people. Matter of fact, we were leading the people before you even came here. You came out of nowhere. You were gone for 40 some years and you show back up and all of a sudden you're ruling over us? No. So he says is it for you a mere trifling or trifle that Elohim of Israel has separated you from the community of Israel to bring you close to himself? The purpose of the Most High bringing this family out, more specifically Korach and the sons of Levi, is for them to be separated from the community of Israel and to draw them close to himself, because the Most High has a special purpose for this man's family. Okay, because he's out of a tribe of Levi, out of one of the sons. So their responsibility was, we need you to go ahead and you're just going to pick up the Ark of the Covenant when we tell you to. That's what you're going to carry. You're going to carry the table of the bread. You're going to carry the menorah. That's what you guys are doing. You guys are going to be laborers, and this is what you're going to do. You're going to carry stuff. That's what you do. Okay. And so they thought that this was a slight because they didn't understand that, anytime the Most High chooses somebody for service to come close to him, it's not going to be in the way that they want it to be. And I think that's the point that we're trying to bring out here, is that the fact that when the Most High calls us, all of us are going to have different roles and responsibilities. Like I mentioned earlier, some of us are going to pick up more than others, right? The Most High has some plans for someone that he may not have for others, and that's okay. Remember, the argument was we're all Yahweh's people. We're all his people, which is true. But even within the idea of all of us being his people, there are some individuals that the Most High is going to set apart from the rest of the community, right? So this is in context of where they are and what he's doing, and it's order to draw them close to Yah. The problem with us today is that we're saying that there's a group of people who you and I would, have been told that they're leaders. And because they're leaders and you read something like this, you're thinking that they're closer to Yah than you are. And that's not true. They're not, that's not true. When you and I look at that, we're thinking that these leaders that have been separated, they want you to believe that they've been separated from you and that they're closer to Yah than you. That's not true. Not at this particular time. Because if it is the case, and there is a leadership that's set up, and there is a community of Israel, all of us are together, and the Most High is going to appoint who He wants to be set over us. That's why we don't have any rights. I don't have a right to put myself above you. That's why I don't. That's why I changed my name. My name is Akika. I'm not your more. I'm not taking any leadership role over you. I'm your brother. Brothers and sisters have an obligation to look out for one another. That's our job. That's what we're supposed to do right now while we're in our exile. Okay. So there is no tabernacle, there is no Kohanim, there is no drawing close to Yahweh right now. So you say, well, what should we supposed to take from this? Well, we're supposed to look at it and say, at this in particular time, this is what he wanted for them. That's not the case why we're in exile, because we're not there yet. But we are going to go to be with the Most High, and then he's going to appoint who he wants to be over his people. Okay. Um, Moshe did tell them to do something. He told them, hey, I want you guys to get some censors, which you guys already know. I don't have to read the whole thing, talked about how the Most High is going to choose the individual, and this is how he's going to determine who it is that he chose. Your Torah portion is about making choices. And it's about you making a choice. It's about Yahweh making a choice. It's about Korach making choices. It's all about what's being chosen. Okay. So the reason why the censors were mentioned, everyone, is simply because the censors carry what? Somebody tell me. What does the censer carry? Come on.
The incense and the fire.
It carries the incense and the fire. Once the incense is burned, what's left over?
Ashes.
Thank you. So when you get the ashes, what do you do with the ashes?
That depends on which ashes we're talking about.
Okay, good. So let's just say any ash. Just give me a general statement. What would you do with ashes after everything's been burned up? What do we do with ashes?
Take them outside the camp.
Thank you. So you remove them, right? So, okay. So now this is the reason why the Most High and instructed Moshe to tell them to take their censers. Because the idea of them getting a censer was because he was going to incinerate them and he was going to remove them from the camp. And this is the way that he was going to do it. So what he did was he used the idea of the priesthood, because the priests were the ones who's supposed to have the censers, right? And so he's going to use the censer to get rid of Korach and all of his group, the 250 people. That's the reason why the censer is there. Okay. And so at doing this, Yahweh will choose, he will show you who he chose to be set apart. Okay. And that idea that has to do with the censers of the ash has to come with fire. Okay. So the Most High is using fire again to show who's his people. Now, there is no evidence of anyone being left over after they got hit with the fire. The judgment was fire because they came to the Most High and they were not appointed. Again, showing you that the Most High has chosen someone to approach him. Now, let's be honest. While we're in our exile, is there anyone in the Most High that the Most High chose to approach him? Yes? No? Maybe? Somebody tell me. Are you in exile? Who did Most High choose to be over us on our behalf to go to the Most High?
I don't know anybody.
Nobody. The people who did this, they got torched. They got torched in the wilderness. So the same people that are in exile right now that are claiming to be Levites or claiming to be a priesthood or claiming to be somebody or be a leader and want to approach the Most High in the fashion that they want to do it, the way that they've been taught while they were in Egypt or while they're in the second Egypt and coming out of their slavery, they're going to do the same thing that these people did. There's going to be individuals who are going to do this. This is not just a story. This is history here. This is a learning tool. Okay. So he's letting us know that while you're in your exile, I haven't chosen anyone to come to me. So don't minimize the holiness of Yah because you want to choose somebody to stay in your place because you want to change the way the Most High said to do things. Okay. So everyone was incinerated. There was no one left after the Most High burned every last one of them up. That's why the censers were taken. Okay. I myself have taken your kinsmen, the Leviim, from among the people of Israel. This is the Most High speaking. Um, they have been given as a gift to Yahweh. You need to understand why the Most High has even called Korach. Okay. And that family. So the families that he's talking about, Leviim, he's not just talking about Aaron's children. Aaron's family. He's talking about the Gershons, the Kohats, the family where Korach is from. He's talking about the Meraris. He's talking about everyone who's related to this in particular tribe. There's different families within this tribe. But out of this tribe, he chose Aaron. But he says, I have taken them from among you to give as a gift to Yahweh for you. So the Leviim, Kohath did not realize that he was a gift that was given. He thought what he was that his role was insignificant in the service to the Most High, right? So he thought his role was insignificant. I'm not important. I want more. He didn't recognize that he was a gift. Most High mentions that they were a gift after he ends up killing Korach and his 250 people, along with the other 14,700 people that still talking crazy. So the Leviim are a gift, right? That were given to Aaron and his sons for Yahweh. And the people of Israel are the ones who gave the Leviim. The Most High took the Leviim out from the children of Israel. When they Israel gave the Leviim to Yahweh. Yahweh then turns around and gives the gift of the Leviim to Aaron and his sons. So they can perform the service in the tent of meeting, meaning carry the Ark of the Covenant and all the other things that we've been talking about. Okay. So again, we see that they're a gift that Moshe sent to Dathan and Abiram. Now, this is very important. These are the individuals who were from Aaron's line. Okay, I mean, excuse me, from Reuven's line. One of the sons of Israel, the firstborn of Israel, the chosen firstborn son that lost his right. So they're upset and they want to take over. They want to go back to Egypt, and they appointed Korach to be the one. And the reason why they appointed Korach is because Korach is from the family of Lewi. So they were already ruling in Egypt. So they already had clout. The 250 men of reputation were backing his claim, right? That I can rule you guys. A matter of fact, what they're trying to do, everyone, is escape the death sentence that was just decreed on the whole entire nation for those who are 20 years old and up. They're trying to escape Yah's judgment. This is the reason why they want to go back to Egypt, because they're trying to go away from him. Okay. They said something was very interesting. They said, we won't come up. Moshe called them to come up because he wanted to talk with them and he wanted to, reason with them, right? Just like how it is now. You and I sometimes feel like it's important for us to talk to people and, have a discussion about what's going on. If there's any kind of conflict, you should want to, this is the first course of action that we should take, is to try to resolve it through conversation or have some dialogue with one another. But of course, being who they are, they said, we won't come up. This word, we won't come up, is known in the Hebrew as alot. And alot is an ayin, a lamed, and then of course a tav. But the root word here is this right here, meaning Allah. Okay. And this first letter means to see, and this next one here is the authority, right? So they were already having a problem with the authority the Most High set in place, and they said that we're not going to come up. Okay. All also means to go up, but also means to ascend. So when he's asking them to come up, he's asking them to ascend. Okay. What we can take from this is that if you and I are ever going to be able to understand the ways of the Most High, like if they were to go and meet with Moshe, that means that they had to come up. That means that they had to elevate. Okay. So our idea of coming up to something greater than ourselves, or seeing the authority to recognize that, you and I are going to have to elevate, right? This is what we can take from this about elevation. We need to elevate. If you don't elevate, then you're not going to make it. And what do I mean by that? Well, there was a question that was asked in the Psalms and the Tehillim this week that talked about, in your reading, in your meditation. It was a question that was asked in Psalms 24 that asked a question. It says, who may go up? The same word that's being used for Moshe calling the sons of Dathan and Abiram to come up and asking him to elevate or to ascend. So the question here is, who's going to ascend up to the mountain of Yahweh, right? Who's going to do this? Who can stand in his presence, in his Kadosh place? Going back to the idea of where the Most High's tabernacle is, where his dwelling is, who's going to be able to do this? And I think all of us would want to know, is it me? Am I going to be able to ascend? Am I the one who's going to do the alot? Am I the one who's going to see the authority of Yah? Because that's what this is. Okay. Am I the one who's going to alot? Okay. Am I going to one who's going to ascend? Okay. If I'm going to alot, right, then that means I got to go up. I got to elevate, right? So if I'm going to do this elevation, I got to see the authority, right? And so the question has to be answered. And I want to help us understand what this means because I want you and I to ascend, okay? In the Hebrew, don't worry about reading this, of course. I know what it says, and I put out these different points about what it means. For example, the first part of the answer is who can ascend is the person who has innocence of hands. Okay. The person who has innocence of hands. And what that innocence of hands is dealing with not, shedding innocent blood, the person who's not putting their hand to making idols, the person that's not stealing that you found in Exodus chapter number 20, the person who's being honest, the person who's not trying to take someone else's wife, the person who's not being a thief, the person who is not grabbing anyone and abusing them, that person. That's the person who's going to go up. Innocence of hand, the person who doesn't have any blood on their hands. That's the person who's going to go. The next individual that's going to go, and this is a requirement, this is a prerequisite, okay, is the individual who has purity of mind. Okay. So you and I need to have purity of mind in order to ascend up to Yahweh's holy place. Who's going to be able to go up to Yahweh's mountain is the one who has never carried their soul with emptiness. And of course, the one who's never swears falsely. So these are the four prerequisites that you have to meet. So you got to ask yourself, what's in my hands? What have I done with my hands? Have I held an idol? If I have I repented of it? Purity of mind. What's my mind bent on? You know, Purity of mind in what way, Akika? I'm talking about how one is trying to understand that there's things about us that needs to be changed. We find areas that are dirty, that are not clean. They need to be removed and they have to be dealt with, right? We have to take care to do that. So we got to guard our mind and make sure that our thoughts are pure, right? And I'm not talking from a religious standpoint. I'm talking about one that understands. I want a mind of understanding. A mind that's purified is one who seeks wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. It's the mind that has the desire to appeal to the greater self. The mind that is a pure mind is one that says, I'm not going to put any limitations on my desire to grow with the Most High. The purity of mind is accepting what is true about oneself. Okay. To speak to never carries the soul with emptiness. This was huge for me because I thought to myself, how have I carried around my soul with emptiness? What does this really mean? The one who carries their soul with emptiness is the one who's not really interested in gaining anything. All they're concerned is things that are vain. They're only concerned about what their reputation is, like the 250 men. They're only concerned about their advancement and their progress, but they're not concerned about the method and how they got there. There's different ways that we can obtain successes, and it just depends on how we do it, right? It's not what we do, it's how we do it. The individual who carries their soul with emptiness is the one who doesn't have any guidelines, right? So they just go around and they do what they want to do, right? The one who carries their soul in emptiness is the one who doesn't is not full of joy and happiness. They're just walking the earth with no intention and no purpose. Okay. This individual who's going to be able to ascend up onto the mountain of Yahweh and who can stand in his holy place are going to be the ones who have never swear falsely. That means that they're not interested in deceit. They're always interested in truth, right? They're always interested in doing the right thing. So if this is something that you want to do and you want to ascend and you want to, elevate and you want to go up, you don't want to be like Dathan and Abiram. You don't want to come up with excuses about why you can't, be willing to reason, right? So this takes time. It takes discipline, but also takes a great amount of humility. And I think that's what the Most High was trying to show us through this Torah portion is that he made it available for them to consider or to reconsider their course of action. The Most High wasn't even really truly mad at that time with them. He wanted to talk with them. That's why Moshe had summoned them. It wasn't something that Moshe just wanted to do on his own. Just like he fell down in his face, the Most High told him about the censers, and then he addresses and said, "Hey," which we're going to get to in a second about, "Hey, you're gonna get mad at the whole entire congregation because of one man." The person who was responsible for all this was Korach. He was the one who was trying to get these people to change and to turn and to go against the Most High. Okay, so these guys, Dathan and Abiram, they didn't want to change. There's six things that Yahweh hates, by the way. Hate. He hates these things. It's just the opposite of everything that you and I just learned about the innocence of hands. He's talking about he hates those who shed innocent blood. The purity of mind is dealing with one who is dealing with wicked schemes, right? So that's the opposite. So anyone who has a mind, who's plotting, right? The heart that plots wicked schemes, that person doesn't have a pure mind, right? They're always up to something that's not going to be helpful for people. It says he never carries his soul with emptiness. Again, the one who's going to ascend is the one who's not running around and telling lies, right? It's not the one that's shedding the innocent blood. It's not the one who's causing strife. It's not the one who's gossiping. It's not the one who's causing all these problems. Because this is one of the reasons why the Most High says those individuals are not going to be able to come up because he hates those individuals. Okay? These are the individuals that the Most High hates. Okay? It says Yahweh is in his holy temple. Remember, we just read in 24, it says, who can ascend up to that temple? Well, Yahweh is in his throne, right? He's in the heavens. But when he comes down, he brings his temple down to the earth and he abides with us. And he's concerned about those who are not of what? Innocence of hands. He's concerned with those who have guilty hands. He says his eyes see and test humankind. This is what he does. So he's testing us to see what we're going to do. He's testing us to see how we handle different situations. He says, Yahweh tests the righteous. He's not just testing the wicked. He hates the wicked. Just like he hates the six things that we just talked about, and seven are an abomination to him. He hates the wicked. So anyone who's practicing wickedness, he hates them. He does. But even though he hates them, meaning he's put some distance between him and them, he still gives them an opportunity. I don't have a slide. It's in chapter number 56 of book of Isaiah that talks about, hey, he tells the wicked, hey, why don't you just turn your ways, turn from your wickedness. Chapter number 18 of Ezekiel, hey, why don't you just consider, I don't take any pleasure in the wicked dying. He doesn't take pleasure in destroying the wicked. He wants the wicked to change. But until we decide to make those changes, he hates the wicked and the lover of violence. He hates them. He will rain hot coals down on the wicked. Fire, sulfur, scorching wind will be what they get to drink. For Yahweh is righteous and he loves righteousness, and the upright will see his face. Okay. And Yah doesn't have a face for you to see. What it's talking about is Yah's favor. That's what it's talking about. Okay. And so here, the guilty of hands is someone who's the opposite of the innocence of hands. So the wicked is the opposite of the righteous. Okay. Instead of having purity of mind, the wicked has the filth of the mind. They're not willing to change the way the filthiness. And what determines what is filthy? What determines what's good, what's bad, what's clean, what's unclean, what's pure, what's filthy? What is it? What makes it distinguish? Who determines what's righteous and what's innocent, or what's guilty and what's innocent? It's the Torah. Always carries the soul with emptiness. So the wicked, they don't never carry around their soul with emptiness. The wicked are just the opposite. There's only two type of people in this world. There's the righteous and the wicked. There is no in between. Okay? Anyone who doesn't follow the Most High, and I'm going to be very, very clear with you that anyone who doesn't follow the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments are wicked. I used to be wicked. Okay? I was wicked until I made a decision to turn from my wickedness. Okay? I decided that I'm not going to be swearing falsely. I decided I'm not just going to be walking around aimlessly in this world doing whatever I want to do. I understand that I'm a created being and there's instructions that have been given to me so I can live the best life that I possibly can. That's what it is. And that would be pleasing, right? So again, he's making the appeal, right? And so here, Moses is making an appeal to the Most High on behalf of all the people because the Most High said, look, move out the way. I'm just going to go ahead and end these people. And they said, oh, El, the Elohim of spirits of all humankind, if one person sins, are you going to be angry with the entire assembly? So one man sinned, and that one man was Korach. He doesn't want to end everyone over him. And he says, and so I wanted you to know a law so we can get some clarity because people were asking, hey, since Korach did this, and we know that Aviram and Dathan and their whole families were fallen to the ground and they were all swallowed, even the children and the wife and the daughters and the sons, why does Korach have sons that are writing in the book of Psalms? Why are there's Psalms that were written by his sons? Does he have a future generation? The answer is yes. The reason why that exists is because there's a law that says fathers are not to be executed for the children, nor are children to be executed for the fathers. Every person will be executed for his own sin. Now we have to bring some clarity here, okay? The idea of children from our perspective is those who are young, okay? Those are young. The word children right here in English is not the Hebrew word for children. All this is really talking about are sons, not just children, not babies, not just, little ones, right? It's not katanas or katans. These are b'nai. And the individuals that they're talking about are individuals who have the knowledge of between good and evil. In the book of Deuteronomy, I don't know the chapter right offhand, but it talks about when we get there, how when the Most High decided from the age of 20 and up, the reason why he did 20 and up is because he knew that the ones who were younger than 20, they were not in their adulthood yet. That's the reason why they weren't qualified to do service in the military. So if you're under 20 years old, the Most High doesn't hold you responsible for your father's sins. You are responsible for your own sin, okay? And that's what he's making reference. So how do we reconcile him saying this about, hey, I'm not going to execute anyone on behalf of someone else? The only way that we can reconcile that is to understand that the Most High here is talking about adults. That's who he's talking about. He's talking about adults in this chapter right here. Okay. What happened to Dathan and Aviram and their families, those children and their wives and their servants and everything that belonged to them, animals and all their goods and their tents and everything went down into the earth. The reason why that happened is because Dathan and Aviram owned everything. Okay. And a lot of people don't like this, but the wife belongs to the husband. The daughters and the sons, when the sons are underneath a certain age, they belong to that father, they belong to that house. Okay. So who are we to judge the Most High and say, well, you ended up unaliving the people? What did the children have anything? What did the animals have anything? What did the wife have anything to do with him doing this? Right? He was saying that the individuals that were in the ownership of this man, he lost everything because of his actions. And so those individuals that belonged to them had to pay the consequences of the person who owned their master's I'm looking for the right word, the master's actions. Okay. And that's the way that the Most High looks at it. And I know it's something that we have a problem with because we're like, hey, those are children, right? No, they belong to that man and everything that he had. So they were told, hey, don't touch anything that those people have. Okay. Here in chapter number 34 of Tehillim, it also brings out the fact about how the Most High, Yahweh, he opposes those who are doing evil, right? So those who are doing wickedness, he opposes those individuals. Yes, Elder Bill.
It's lasagna. Didn't Moshe tell one of their children to come away, one of their sons to come away from the tent so they wouldn't go down with them? Didn't some of their sons denounce their father's actions and they were spared, correct?
No, I don't see that. I didn't see that in the text. Maybe you can show me where that's at, but I didn't see
Mm-hmm.
that.
Okay.
I do know that that was a question about Korach's family because they mentioned what happened and why are they still existing in the book of Psalms and did they get wiped out? And the only conclusion that we can draw from that is that they must have been adults. They had to be able to make their own decisions and they had to be in charge of their decision-making process. So they
You're
didn't,
talking about the sons who were spared.
yeah, the sons who were spared. Yeah.
Right. Yes, exactly. Okay. All right. Toda.
Yeah. So here I want to bring to our attention that Yahweh's against those who are doing evil, everyone. Okay. And so, when you look at your family, just understand something that if they're not doing what Yahweh says, what they are doing is evil. Okay. And what the evil that we have here is not horns, not sharp teeth, not blood running out of their mouth. They're probably really good people. Okay. And from our perspective, but Yah looks at humanity different. He opposes those who are doing evil. They're doing raw. They're doing something that's not good. It's not beneficial. That's not functional. And what his promise is that he's going to cut all memory of them from the earth. Okay. And what this means is if you know that we're going to die, right? All of us are going to perish like trees and or excuse me, like grass and flowers that he mentions. Here he's telling us that anyone who's doing these things, who are doing evil consistently, he says, right? And it's not talking about making mistakes because, making mistakes is different from just purposely doing evil, purposely not following the instructions. Okay. Everything on the earth that the Most High made is following instructions. He's saying that I'm going to wipe out all memory of them from the earth. What memory? How, when you die, does anyone remember you? Well, obviously, there's something about you that needs to be remembered. There's something that you can come back. You understand? If you don't do what he says, he's saying that you will never be able to be here again. There won't be a memorial. And he also talks about, hey, wipe out their name from under the heavens. What do you mean wipe out their names from under the heavens? He's going to cut off all memory of them. So it seems like we have a choice to make, right? Either we can do that which is good or we can do that which is evil. But I want you to understand that the Most High's intent is not to get your memory cut off. It's something that we do ourselves, right? He's going to do this for all those who are wicked, who are doing evil. In your Torah, he says, leave the tents of these wicked men. And I think this is what Azania was probably touching base with. This is what he said, leave the tents of these wicked men. He's talking to the congregations that were around them, their friends, other family members, right, that were not directly in their households. He says, don't touch anything that belongs to them. Going to the idea that I mentioned about how everything belongs to them, their children, their wife, their animals, their servants, all of them. Or you may be swept away in all their sins. And it's talking about these men. These men are wicked, and you know that Yah hates the wicked because what they do is wrong. What they're doing, he got to remove them from the congregation. This is the reason why he's doing this, okay? Giving us an idea about what his intention is to remove the wicked from among us. And he wants us to separate ourselves from these people because you're going to be taken away with their sins. When you look at that, you could say, well, that happened in the wilderness. We're in exile. It doesn't mean anything right now. No, it does mean something. When he talks about leave the tents of these wicked men, and what he's talking about is the association that you have with wicked people are going to get you destroyed. That's what he's saying. Okay. And then in this context here, they were not to touch anything that belongs to these people. Not their tent, not their animals, nothing that belonged to them. Their children, don't try to save nobody. It's over. I'm going to sweep all of them away in their sins. They're going to go, right? And the reason why they're going, everyone, is because they made a decision. Remember, they were called to elevate, and they decided not to elevate, to come up and to recognize the authority. So one thing that popped in my head when I saw this was the fact that I was like, okay, Yah, why would you want to wipe them out? Why wasn't this grace given to them? And this scripture popped in my head. It says, even if pity is shown to the wicked, he still doesn't learn what righteousness is. In the land of uprightness, he will still act wrongly and fail to see the majesty of Yahweh. This is the truth. So when you and I are thinking and talking to people, and you're trying to, get them to, you get them to try to talk to them and tell them to change their ways and show them what the Most High said. There's another text that talks about, don't lie to the wicked. Tell the wicked the truth. Hey, you're going to die, and all your memory of you is going to be wiped off the earth. And you should show them that. Matter of fact, if you want to, here it is, write it down. This is all you got to tell them. And so when you say something like this, if you care about them, you say this like Moses, you try to appeal to them, right? You try to help them out. Let them know that you're going to be eradicated. Well, I'm going to die anyway. No, you don't understand that you're going to be eradicated. There will never be a memory of you, nor any of the descendants after you. You're done. You're finished. There's no memory of you. Okay. But even if pity was shown, if Yah had shown them pity, they still wouldn't understand or learn what righteousness is. Because you and I can't go to the land if you and I don't understand what righteousness is. This is the reason why we're being taught what righteousness is. Right now, you and I are being taught, right? And he says, because they're still going to act wrongly, right? And they're still going to fail to see the majesty of Yahweh. They're still not going to appreciate him being their king. They're still not going to see. We read that it says that Yahweh is righteous. We just read that he's righteous. So how is it that we think that we can live with the Most High, live in his community, be part of this culture, and you and I are refusing to live in a righteous manner? When righteousness is available to us through the Torah. It's teaching us. You're going to make mistakes, but you correct those, get those mistakes corrected. You make the changes you need to make. And by the way, for those of you who don't know what righteousness is, it's not a religious term, okay? It's been used as a religious term, but let me sum it up for you. Righteousness basically means just to pursue. That's all. So you know how you talk about to pursue or to go in a pursuit of happiness? You're just chasing after it. This is what it is. All the Most High wants you to do to find out what's right is to chase it. That's all. Just chase what's right. Go after it. Pursue it. Ambush it. Look for it. Hunt it. That's what we need to do. That's what righteousness is. That's what righteousness is. Righteousness, to be upright, means you can't be in the land of uprightness without it, because your king, Yahweh, is righteous and everything he does is righteous. So if you're not doing this, that means that you're in opposition to the Most High. The wicked is in opposition. They have hostility towards the Most High, and they have hostility towards his ways. They do not want to keep his ways. That's what the wicked are. They're in opposition. They're in hostility against the Most High. So you can see the compassion of the Most High saying, hey, turn from your ways. Pity is not going to be shown. But Most High showing grace. Yeah, I'll show you grace to tell you. That's all he's going to do. He's not going to try to, you know, force anybody to do anything. You got to be from your own within yourself. So it gives us a choice that you can find in Ezekiel chapter number 18. You got a choice. Okay. Again, it's about choices. There's a Hebrew word that I want to share with you right quick. It's called na'atz. And basically, the Most High here in your Torah portion in chapter number 16 was talking about how these people were going to die. Okay. And Moses went to the people and he said, hey, get away from these people. This is about to happen to them. And he says, the Most High is going to do something new. He says he's going to open up the earth and swallows them with everything they owned, and they will go down alive into Sheol. They're going to the grave. Then you will know, or excuse me, you will understand that these men have had contempt for Yahweh. This is the basis of your Torah portion. This is the foundation. This is the main ingredient, is the contempt for the Most High. It's disdain. It's the hatred that they have. It's the rejection of Yahweh. It's the rejection for what the order that he set up, is rejection for the laws that he set up, is rejection for the diet that he told us. It's the rejection of the leadership. It's the rejection of the Moedims. It's the rejection of the Sabbath. It's the rejection of everything the Most High has said. Okay? What I find to be interesting about this is that when I was doing my research on this, and I was like, okay, well, that's contempt, that's hatred. Yeah, I know that. But what does it really mean Hebraically? What is the Hebraic understanding about how can I make this connection to the Most High, where it makes a lot more sense, right? So when we look at this word na'atz means to blossom. That's what it means. Okay. And this is very interesting. It means to blossom. Okay. Now here's the trippy part. Uh, Forgive me for my Bay Area slang. Is the trippy part. Uh, they began to when the Most High took them out of Egypt. Okay, they were like little knobs, like right here, like little knobs on the branch, just knobs, like this one right here. Okay, just knobs. And over time, they started to blossom, and over time, then they start flowering. Okay. The na'at is a spraying of the color within the flower. So you know how usually with flowers they start getting these different colors in its petals, it starts coming from the inside. Like for example, you see these colors on here. It is the colors that start spraying out like this, and it gives all different types of colors that come out. Well, that's what he's talking about. So what we need to understand is that when a person has contempt, right? The agricultural term that we should understand about this contempt is not something is um, that is immediate. It's something that's delayed. So they have been feeling this way about the Most High, and then finally it finally blossomed and it came out, and then you get to see what they're really about. So it tells us something about Yah. Did he not know that they felt this way? He knew they felt this way. When he wanted to destroy the people, he said, "Move out the way and let me destroy them." Moses was like, "No, you're not going to do that for you. You're going to kill everybody for one man because you're upset." No, Yah sees this, and he knows that it's going to be like this. He knows that this nut right here that has contempt for him are going to grow up to be flowering. So why do you have to wait? You see? So this is the point that we need to wake up to. If you have any contempt for the Most High, it is going to blossom. It is going to blossom, and it's going to blossom in our lives. And it's not going to happen immediately. It might happen later. It might not be the first year, the fifth year, the 10th year. It might be the 20th year. It might be. It depends on what type of plant you are. It depends on how quickly you advance in your contempt and your rejection of the Most High. You see? So what we're finding is that the Torah is directly connected to agriculture. And I'm going to show that to you. This is the reason why you have to stay on the path so you can learn. Because when we walk down in our path, we're coming across different trees, we're coming across different shrubs, we're going by rivers, we're going the path that we're on, it looks like it's treaded. We start seeing some footmarks that we've been there before, things become familiar. But we have to start looking around and paying attention to the details. Okay. So here, the Most High is clearly telling us in our Torah this week that there's some things that just not going to pop up until it's time. And at this time, he knew that, hey, they have contempt for me. These men, they have contempt. That's how they are. Okay. What you find in your Haftarah, okay. Just taking a little pit stop right quick. You know, we read our Haftarah, which is an addition to your Torah portion found in the book of Shemuel, chapter number 12. There's these ideas of Egypt, deliverance, enemies, deliverance all over again, and of course a revolt. So let me show you what happens when the Most High is talking about blossoming. It says after Yaakov had entered, yes,
That's First Samuel, right?
yeah, First Samuel. Mhm. It says after Yaakov had entered Egypt, your ancestors cried to Yahweh, and Yahweh sent Moshe and Aharon. This is Shemuel telling them about how they came to their revolt. Okay, so it's not immediate. It's always going to be over time. Okay, so he said he sent Aaron and Aharon, right? So there again, the Most High appointed them, who brought your ancestors out of Egypt and had them live there in this place, talking about the land. Then, after that happened, while they were living in the land, it says Shemuel said to the people, it was Yahweh who appointed Moshe and Aharon, giving testimony to the fact that the Most High did appoint them. And he understood this, who brought your ancestors out from the land of Egypt. Okay, so again, when they got there, he brought them, he delivered them. Okay, then it says, but they cried to Yahweh and said, we sinned by abandoning Yahweh and serving the Baalim and Ashtaroth. The Most High gave them over to their enemies because of their idolatrous practices. He says, but now if you rescue us from the power of our enemies, we will serve you. There was another promise. So they've always been talking about what they're going to do, right? They're always talking about what we're going to do. We're going to serve you if you deliver us. So he delivered them out of Egypt. He delivered them and brought them to their land. And then he brought enemies against them because of their idolatrous practices, because that's what he does. So enemies and idolatry and oppression are always going to be connected. So you're in your enemy's lands because you are an idolater. Okay. But the Most High knows this. And then when they got there and things happened to them, he said, now after all this happened, then you make a claim again that we're going to serve you. So you can see over time, they're making these promises every time they got in trouble. He delivers them again. Okay. He delivers them again. Let me get this out of here. He delivers them again. So Yahweh sent Yerubbabel, Dadan, Yitzhak, and Shemuel to rescue you from the power of your enemies on every side, and you live securely. These men that are mentioned right here are the people that were raised out from the different tribes to save them from their enemies. Okay. And so he's saying, hey, every time you guys mess up, you guys ask the Most High, you cry out to him, he answers you. And then finally, they got attacked again. And there, I don't have the whole story, but then at the end, this was with the revolt. They got to a situation where the enemies came again. Why? Because they're directly connected to idolatry and then the Most High. And because of this idolatry, they are going in revolt like everyone else has in the past. Okay. So the idolatry is indicative of revolt. You being brought to your enemies is because you revolt. You have gone against the power structure of the Most High. And this is what they said. This was the final thing that they said. They said, no, we want a king to rule over us when they got in trouble this next time. Okay. So the what they really wanted from here all the way to this point is they wanted to rebel against the Most High. When they're doing this, they're rebelling. But the end result was this. The purpose of revolt, everyone, is to go against the authority. The authority that we're going against and that they went against is the king, to have Yahweh as your king. That's the main problem. That's one of the biggest problems we have. We don't want him to rule over us. We want a man to rule over us. This is the reason why people accept Christianity, because they want a man. They want Christ, the king, to rule over them. They do not want Yahweh to rule over them. Somebody tell me, why don't they want Yahweh to rule over them? Why doesn't Israel want Yah to rule over them?
I think partly because they like what the other nations are doing, like the way they eat, or the women from the other nations drag them in over there, and then they start falling in love with their practices, and they see it's not as hard as it is over there, it is as it is over here to follow the laws of Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Those
I
are-
Go
I
ahead.
think I think it's because they know their guilt won't let them, and with them being guilty of going against transgressing against Yahweh, they it just pumps up their ego to not allow them to want Yahweh to lead.
There you go. Sister,
It must have been super
Elder Bill,
scary, but Abraham
Elder Bill.
And then, and
Yes,
then too,
I was going to, um, I think it was the difference between Moshe and the rest of us. And it still is the main reason why there's so much discord and everything. I think it begins and ends with humility of accepting Yah's judgments, which are all about the earth and,
Yes.
and and everything just the way it is. Most of us don't have the humility to accept things as they are.
Praise Yah. Sister Sharon.
I was just thinking that Yah has standards and they don't want to meet his standards.
Oh, yes. Well, let me ask you before we go on for another one. Why? Why don't they want to meet the standards? Are they hard?
I hesitate to say that, but I just don't think their hearts and minds are aligned with that path. It's hard for the person who has not decided to make Yah first.
Mm. So we've go ahead, Bruce. I'm gonna get Bruce right quick, and then I'm gonna respond to that. Go ahead, Bruce.
I was just gonna say no accountability. Um, like the New Testament is all about like get rich and all the love music and covered by grace and all that. But Yah's commandments and laws are not as simple, and it takes work and it takes effort, and so they don't want that accountability because they don't want to be feeling like failures, I think.
Hmm. Interesting. I thank all of you for those contributions. I want to just add to what you've all said that in order for us to carry out the Most High's commandments, we don't need any supernatural power. All we need to do is have a willingness to do so. And that's what he's been looking for from the whole time is he's looking for willingness. And willingness, everyone, goes to what we would say your desire. So that speaks to what someone had mentioned about, hey, they just don't want to do it. I think Azania mentioned it. It takes humility. So we have to say that he's right and we're wrong or we don't understand. And that's where you get the difference between those who are continually or consistently seeking Yah. And that's the purpose of us doing these studies, is because we want to show the Most High that we are seeking Him, that we are seeking Him. We're seeking His ways. We're trying to understand. All of us don't have the answers. He's not looking for us to have the answers. He's looking for us for Him to give us the answers and for us to appreciate the answers and to work with them, right? And to try to be better at what we do. So they wanted a king. That was the whole thing. So the whole idea of mentioning Egypt and all the different things that between, so Egypt is the bookmark. Egypt is where it started, and where we are right now, everyone is still in revolt, unfortunately. So between Egypt and all these different times of enemies, deliverance, idolatry, enemies, deliverance, enemies, deliverance, all the times that the Most High has saved them, it's been because He doesn't want to give up on the people that He loves. He loves us, right? But how could you continue to love someone that doesn't love you? So look how long He's been waiting, right? There were two options that were presented to the children of Israel, which are the two options that are going to be presented to every descendant of Israel, those who join themselves with Israel, um, that we need to look at. And before I have those two options brought up for the choices that we need to make, that they had to make, we need to understand that Yahweh is the Hagadol Shemo. Yah has a great reputation, and it's because of His name and because of who He is that He will not abandon His Amo, His people. See, so the Hagadol Shemo is connected to the Amo, and you're His Amo, you're His people, because it pleased Yahweh to make you a people for Himself. It brought Yahweh delight, just like when He made the heavens and the earth and all that was in it, and He looked at it and said it was good. He chose a certain people on the earth to be representatives of His goodness and His kindness and His mercy and His grace. He's decided to use us as the example of His how great His mercy is, and how powerful and how righteous He is, and how loving and compassionate He is. And we need to be thankful for that. And we're all coming to grow to that. So I'm appreciative of that. Option number one tells us something about what we need to do. Okay. It says, if you will fear Yahweh, if you and I know fear means to follow the instructions, be pointed in the direction that Yahweh wants, and also to tremble and shake at the fact that you need to be afraid of Yahweh. If you're not afraid of Yahweh, you might as well hang it up. It's over for you. He says, serve Him, not other idols, obey what He says, which is a big thing for us, and not rebel against Yahweh's orders, His commands. If both you and the king ruling over you remain followers of Yahweh, your Elohim, then things will go well with you. This is what He told the people. Option number two is the idea that if you refuse, because you have a right to refuse. See, this is what has been taken away from us. When you talk about the New Testament, they take away uh, your right, your right to choose. It's because they're saying the choice has already been made for you. You don't have to do anything. It's all been done. It's all paid for. It doesn't work that way. The Most High that we serve says that, hey, you can love me or you can hate me. It's just up to you. So, but if you refuse to obey what Yahweh says and rebel against Yahweh's orders, because if you're not obeying, you're in rebellion, then Yahweh will oppress both you and your leaders. I laughed because this is exactly what has happened. Okay. This Yah oppresses both you and your leaders. So your oppression is from Yahweh. The so-called leaders that you had is from Yahweh. They had crossed Him and He oppressed them. See? So when we go against Him, you're going to be oppressed. When we do what He asks us, then things are going to go well. It's just that simple. um, I want to share something beautiful with you. And your Torah person said, the staff of the man I'm going to choose will sprout buds. In this way, I will put a stop to the complaints the people of Israel keep making against you. And that you right there was not just against Moshe, it was against Aharon as well. So the you right there is plural, both of you guys. They don't like me choosing you, Moshe and Aaron. They don't want you to be the Kadosh, the one I chose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have them bring their staffs, and then we're going to look at which one buds, and then I'm going to show you what it means. The budding of this has to do with the choice, and the choice is evident. The Most High chose Aharon. So it says the next day Moshe went into the tent of testimony, and there he saw Aaron's staff for the house of Levi, and it had budded and it had sprouted not only buds but flowers and ripe almonds as well. You might ask yourself, well, what does all this mean? This is one of the most beautiful things that my wife and I discovered in our study this week, as we studied together and we have an opportunity. We studied and we found out something that I wanted to share with all of you. Okay. So when it talks about how he went into the ark, the Ark of the Covenant, which is the testimony, and he brought out Aaron's staff, and there was almonds on it. Those almonds are called shekadim. Okay, and the shekadim are comes from what you saw earlier about this almond blossom. Right, it starts blossoming, and then all of a sudden, the flower ends up turning into an almond. Okay, in that text, these words were used, which was zitz, why zaitzitz. So it sounds like zitzot, or what they call zitzit. Okay, so zitzites are connected to blossoming. Your zitzites are connected, which they call in plurality, zitzot, are connected to um, uh, blossoming and flowers. Okay, so when you wear your zitzites, it's like you're wearing flowers, and it means that you're blossoming. Okay, then he used this word, and it was ripe. Okay, which is here, this word right here. This word gamal right here means to become independent, and it becomes to maturity, just like the ripeness of an almond. Right. So I just wanted to bring that out right quick for these shekadim. So the shekadim are the almonds, but the process that it goes through, it has to come to maturity. So the seeds are given to you to cause you to blossom, but also is there to cause you to grow, because gomal means to grow, and it means to mature and it become independent and independent of your thinking, right? So I want you to grow and I want you to mature. So then you would be, of course, like an almond. You become like an almond, uh, right? So let me show you some things right quick. So remember, the seed has to do with blossoming, which is really a beautiful thing in almonds. All right, so the word of Yahweh, for those of us who don't know, came to me, talking about Yirmiyahu, to asking Yirmiyahu, he said, what do you see? He said, I see a branch from an almond tree. This is in Jeremiah chapter number 1, verse number 11. This almond, everyone, has several different meanings in Hebrew. Okay, and it's important. Remember, I had told you earlier that the Most High uses agriculture to talk to us. Okay, it's just like the blossoming of how meet for him to know what's in our hearts and what's in our mind and what our intentions are. It starts to blossom over time. So everything happens in timing. Okay. So the first part of this almond happens is it means to awaken. The first part of the process of an almond on an almond tree, the almond tree is a tree that is one of the first trees to actually come out of a dormant state in the winter. It's one of the first trees to ever wake up. I don't know if you guys know that. And what it's doing it is waking up out of its sleep. Okay. So going back to the idea that we keep talking about how life itself is one of waking and going to sleep. That's all it does. So when a tree, you would say that the tree died because it doesn't have any leaves, it doesn't have any fruit, it doesn't have anything on it, and the tree's not dead. The tree is just went to sleep. It's just in a dormant state. So when winter's over, the first tree that begins to blossom is and comes out of its sleep is the almond tree. Okay. That's the first thing that happens. It awakens, okay, out of its sleep. The second thing, the second meaning or meaning that's connected to it has to do with the idea of a transition. So now that it's coming out of its sleep and is being awakened, it's transitioning. Okay. I use this almond tree or these flowers right here to also give us the understanding about the whiteness of the flowers. The whiteness is talking about, when you think about something white, you think about purity, you think about age. When see someone with white hair, they're transitioning, they've been awakened to things for a while, and now they're transitioning out of one thing, and you should be able to have enough respect to look at that and say, okay, well, this person now has blossomed. A person with white hair or gray hair is a person who's blossomed. So your age is indicative of you blossoming like a tree. You've been here, right? And so when your hair gets white that you're about to what? You're about to make a transition. You're transitioning, okay? And it's perfectly okay. So when we look at death, everyone, we should look at it in a different way, right? Look at death as life, because that's what it can be. It's just your sleep. The Most High uses it all the time about us going to sleep. You're going to go sleep with your fathers. You're transitioning, right? You're transitioning to a point of what they was something divine. That's what this almond means. This is the reason why when he put the staff inside of the testimony, by the testimony, it started to have life, right? It transitioned from being dormant to becoming alive and awakening. That's why it had flowers and it had almonds and it started blossoming. That means that there's a divine connection. Okay. So the almond tree has a divine connection, the awakening, the transition. So what you're doing is you're awakening and you're transitioning to the divine. And this is what the Most High's purpose was for the children of Israel, is to wake up to the fact of who that he selected. Wake up to the fact that he is their Elohim. Wake up to the fact that being around the Most High requires them to understand that they need to operate in a divine manner because they're with a divine being. Okay, so they're not with a human being; they're with a divine being. And this is what scared them in chapter number 16, because they said, "Oh, after he killed everyone, oh, we're all going to die." We're all going to die now because we're around a divine being. And the fact of the matter is they're not going to die. This is their attitude towards it because they didn't understand, right? Because they weren't awakened to the fact that the Most High is having them transition to a part of understanding the divinity of Him and saying that, hey, when you're around me, you have to live a certain way, right? And so eventually he asked him, he said, what do you see? He said, I see an almond tree, right? And the word that's being used right there has to do with the almonds, right? So he's talking about, what do you see? Meaning, what have you been watching? He said, yeah, I'm watching, I'm seeing it. So part of our walk with the Most High, part of our awakening, after we were awakening, we transitioned to the divine. You and I need to be watchful. We need to be watchful, not only for the divinity, but for the transition. So when the Most High awakened us up out of our sleep, when we were scattered to the nations, you and I now have participated. You're like the branch that was put in the ark by the Ark of the Covenant. And what's in the Ark of the Covenant? Somebody tell me. Somebody tell me, what's the Ark of the Covenant?
The Ten Commandments.
Hmm. It's the 10 words of the Most High that's in that gold box. When you and I started to become awakened, right? Because we've been set we're a branch that's been set next to the Ark of the Covenant, the Adut, the testimonies. When you get connected to the testimonies, you begin to transition. You begin to transition to the divine. See, so the divinity of Yah is found in His words, right? And then once we become awakened to this, we start what? We need to be watchful. We need to be watchful how we live. We need to be watchful of what we say. We need to be watchful. In order for us to be those people that are going to ascend up to the mountain of the Most High, it asks the question, who's going to be able to ascend? Right? So these ideas have to do with the Tzitzit too. This is what it does. It has to do with the Tzitzit. Okay. Yahweh said to Moshe, speak to the people of Israel, instructing them to make throughout all their generations Tzitzot, meaning plurality of Tzitzit, on the corners of their garments, and put with the Tzitzit on each corner a violet thread. Okay. A color, violet thread, not a blue, violet, like an ultraviolet purple. Okay. The reason why it's on the corners, by the way, everyone, is because the corners are your wings. On the four corners are your four wings. The word corners there in Hebrew is called kanaf, and kanaf means a wing. So it's put on the four wings of you. And you use wings to guard. And so what is the Ezekiel supposed to do? It's supposed to help us guard. One of the things that we're commanded to do is to see, to look at them. That's what we're supposed to look at. We're supposed to look at the Tzitzit. If you don't have them on, you won't see them. Why does he want you to see them? He wants you to see them so you can awaken. When he awakens you, he's awakening your eyes so you can see. Okay. After he wakens your eyes up, right? And then he tells you, he said, look, go back to our previous slide right there, because they're one and the same pictures, just different meanings for the Zitzo. The next one is a transition. Okay. So the transition is to remember. He wants us to remember what? I want you to remember the 10 words. I want you to remember Anoki Yahweh Eloheka, that Sherli Hotzatika to Meretz and Mitzrayim. I am Yahweh. I'm your Elohim who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, who delivered you from the house of slaves. I'm the one. You shall never have another Elohim before my face. Never shall you make an image or a likeness of anything in the heavens above, on the earth beneath, or anything in the sea. You should not bow down to them and serve them and to worship them. For I'm a jealous El. I'm visiting the sins of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me. But I'm showing mercy and compassion to those who love me and keep my commandments. You should never carry Yahweh's name around in vanity. Remember the soul that carries his soul around in vanity? Put the 10 words in there so your life can have meaning and have substance. See? So I need you to remember that. I need you to remember not to carry my name around as emptiness or nothing. I need you to remember the Sabbath day. I need you to zakar the Shabbat. Zakor et yom nahashabbat. I need you to remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Right? The Kadashah. Right? You got 6 days to tavod, to do all your work. And on the 7th day, I need you to rest. There shall be no work for you, your son, your daughter, your maidservant, your female servant, your animals, your behemoth, or your agarika, which is the strangers within your gates. Because in 6 days, Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, and on the 7th day, he rested. I need you to remember to honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long upon the land that I've given you. Remember, don't commit murder, don't commit adultery, and don't steal and lie. Don't do that. And don't you dare covet and desire and delight in your neighbor's house. And don't answer your neighbor in falsehood. Don't desire your neighbor's house. Don't desire your neighbor's wife or his ass or his dunk or anything that belongs to your neighbor, his male servant, his female servant. I need you to remember those things. That's what the Zitzi is there for you to remember and obey. And then you need to remember that you're dealing with the divine being who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim. I want you to remember Egypt. Because if you remember Egypt, that means that you're going to be watching and waiting for my coming. Because I'm the one who came and got you out of Egypt. I'm the one. That's why I told you I'm Yahweh who took you out of the land of Egypt. So you won't serve any other gods. You won't turn your eyes to worship other gods and prostitute yourselves among the nations. But that happens when you're watchful. It happens when you're awakened to the truth of who I am and who you are. Praise be to Yahweh. That's the beautiful thing. Chapter number 18, in closing. The levying wealth distribution. This is the reason why there was a huge problem for the children of Israel, or the Leviim. That's why they were tripping. Korach and them were tripping everyone because 70% just about of all permissible offerings and everything that was given to the children of Israel, given to the Most High from the children of Israel, 70% of it was going to Aaron family. It's going to Aaron's family. Okay. Korach is from the tribe of Kohat. And so was Aaron. He's from this family, but Yah chose Aaron out of the family of the Kohats because this is one of Levi's sons, right? So Kohat is where Korach is from. The Gershonis are the ones who are in charge of all the coverings. They're the ones who take down the tabernacle. And then, of course, the Merari family is handling all the hard goods. So the Gershonis are having the soft goods. The Kohats are moving the Ark of the Covenant, the table of bread, and all that. So the Most High says, your reward for your service becoming next to me is just 10%. And all you get is 10% of the tithes of the fields and the trees. You don't get any land. You get to live on the land and you get the houses that you have and you get some other rights like, right of redemption and, if you had a house inside the city, it doesn't matter if you lent it out, you're always going to get your house back, all these things. So there's some benefits that way. But looking at it economically, they were like, you guys get 70%. You guys get everything. You get all the offerings, you get all the meat, you get it all. And by the way, they get all the best. You get all the best of the olive oil, I gave to you. You get the best of the wine. You get the best of the grain. You get the first of the portion of what was given to Yahweh. Yah said, I gave it all to Aaron. And when they recognized this and they saw this wealth distribution, they lost it. So this aggregate here is 30%, meaning every one of these tribes, the Kohat tribe got 10, the Gershonis got 10 of the tithes, and they got 10. Now, what's the catch? The catch is if you're getting all the best of the olive oil and the animals and all this kind of stuff, but you got to give the 10. When they went to go collect the tithes, they took the tithes and they took 10% and they gave the 10% to Aaron and them. All of them. Every one of these families had to give Aaron 10%. But their work only called for 10%. They weren't moving the tabernacle all the time. They weren't doing all that all the time. And when the temple was built, they were, singers and guardians of the gate and all this kind of stuff. But they weren't doing the total service like Aaron was. They weren't responsible for what happened in the Mishkan. If anything went wrong, Aaron's family was the one who was going to die. Anybody who came and touched anything and went wrong, Most High said, you guys are going to die if they mess up. They mess up, you're going to die. You and your sons are going to die. Okay? So it's not that he wanted them to die. He just let them know when you guys are dealing with him, then this is what it's going to be. So this is the reason why there was all the anger and the rebellion, because it had to do with wealth. So again, you see that it's not religious. It's real. It's about money. Okay. It's about wealth. When I say money, I'm talking about wealth. Now, one of the things we need to understand for those of you who are watching live and you're currently paying tithes to your churches and to your sanctuaries and everything else that you think that the Most High is governed. And please don't be angry with me for telling the people the truth. The fact is that in the time of the tithe, there was never, ever any money given in tithing. Never. Never was any money ever distributed to the priest. And if anything, the ones who were doing the service received the tithes. The tithes belong to the Levites. Aaron's family, they only get a tenth of everything else of their tithe. Okay. So there was never any money. There was never any kesef. There was never any zahav. Kesef is silver and zahav is gold. There was never any money ever given for tithes. So all the money that you and I used to give to the church for tithing is lost. It meant absolutely nothing. You're just getting built it out of your money. Okay. If you're paying tithes right now, then you are being tricked. Okay. You're being taken advantage of. Okay. What it should be said is if you want to make a contribution, they should not call it a tithe. If it's a tithe, the tithe belongs to the Levites. The reason why they're calling it a tithe is because they want to justify that they are these people, the Levites family. And when they say that they're Levites, they're telling you that they're your leaders. And they're telling you that they have been appointed by the Most High. And they're telling you that they're the gift from the Most High. And that's where it's wrong, because they're not. They haven't been verified. There is no Aharon. If there's not an Aharon, there's no high priest. There is no Leviim in service. Don't you get that? If there's no tabernacle, there is no service. If there's no service, then there's no Leviim. If there's no land, there is no Leviim. The Leviim get the tithes from the land. So if you're paying money right now because they're guilt tripping you on a tithe, you're being robbed. They're lying to you. They're going to be calling me up. They're going to be hitting me up on all social media saying that I'm teaching wrong. No, you're being robbed. Do not give a tithe. Give a contribution. Give a nice offering if you like, but don't give a tithe. Don't call it a tithe. A tithe is a 10% of that which comes out of the fields and other trees. Now, either we're going to do it Yahweh's way or we're going to do it our own way. You see what happens when we do it our way versus his way. People end up getting unalived. And nothing works out. Nothing goes well. That's rebellion against the Most High. Okay. So this little chart right here is clear. It tells you that the wealth distribution is for this family. This is who gets the tithes. Okay. No money, just food. And you don't have no land and you have no basket. So there are no tithes. Sorry. And it's because we don't know, right? Yes, Kel.
Yeah, I just had a question about that last slide. So that 70% of that wealth that is going to the tribe of the Levite, that so whatever the population is, that money would be evenly distributed among each person in the tribe.
No, that's 70%. As you can like the color code, Aaron's family is the purple. Only Aaron's family got the 70%.
So how do the other Levites get money in their families?
All the other Israelites get their money from their fields. Like, for example, in Jubilees, remember he said that you guys can sell your fields out, or you can take your produce and sell it, or you can take your animals and you can sell that. You can breed animals, you can sell animals, you can do turtle doves, you can do pigeons, you could do houses, you could do all that kind of stuff. You could, when they would go into wars and stuff like that, and they have some different spoils of war. They would get their wealth from that, like how the children of Israel came out of their bondage, and the Most High draped them with a lot of gold and silver. So, and then they would take over other countries and or the other lands, and they would get their gold and silver from there. Just like when they were invaded, all their gold and silver was taken from them. So, wealth there's many different ways for wealth to be accumulated, but the point here is that Aaron's family was entitled to the 70%. So they got all the offerings, they got all the wave offerings, everything that Israel brought to Aaron and his sons, they received it. All the grain offerings, every single thing, every best, all the olive oil, all the wine. So all of the wealth of the land was given to them, all of it. Okay, and then when I talk about 70%, what I'm saying is out of the total amount of wealth that's given, because not only is I mean, when you got the 10% over here, they're not just getting whatever comes out of the fields and the trees. So that's the fruit, that's the grain, that's the olive oil. All these things that are mentioned down here, the best, all the best of the best goes to Aaron. They still, the Kohites they get some good stuff, but they don't get the best of the best. They get the second best. They don't get the best of the best. So, an aggregated, this is from an aggregate, right? So, out of all of 100% of everything, Aaron was getting like a 70% share of everything because he still had to give out 30% of everything to them. So technically, he only received 70%.
So
Okay.
they would get the best, and then they would filter it out to give the second best to the rest of the people.
Okay. So this is the way it ran. So the people would get their produce, right? They would come up with their fields and their trees and their grain and their olive oil and their wine and all these things, right? And so every year, right, they would harvest, right? And then there's a year of tithing, and there's every 3 years. So what it was is every time they did a harvest, they were supposed to give 10% of what they made or what they had to the Leviim. Okay, which means when I'm talking about Leviim, I'm talking about the Kohat family, the Gershon family, and the Merari family. And because they didn't have any land in terms of for that type of production, they had little fields and stuff where they would do their little gardens. They had oxen and stuff like that, but they were not on massive scale. Okay, so they didn't have any real industry because their job was to work in the tabernacle. So when the children of Israel, when they would have this production, they would take a tenth and they would give it to the Levite, which is the Kohath family, the Gershon, and the Meraris. Right? They would set it aside for them. Like the Most High said, remember the Levite, remember the fatherless, and remember them because they don't have any inheritance. So when the Levites received that 10%, right? So they got the 10% and they got a 10% cut and they got a 10%, right? When they got that 10%, I divided that 10% up among these three, right? They would end up taking the 10% of their 10% and give it to Aaron and his sons. They would have to give them the best. So, you're Aaron. I'm one of the Levites. I would give you 10%. I would give you 10 out of my 10. See? So
Oh,
whatever
I
you had,
see.
I would give you to you, I would give you 10%, but the 10% that I gave to you had to be the best of what I got from the children of Israel. And if I failed to give you the 10%, or I failed to give, or I did something wrong or try to sell or do anything else with the 10% I received, instead of giving it to you, the Most High said, you're going to die for that. That's in chapter number 18. You're going to die for that. If you mess up on any of the offerings that my people gave to you, because they're giving it to you to give to Aaron and them, but I'm giving it to you as your wage. It's my gift to you. But you got to give a 10% of the gift that I gave to you to Aaron and his sons. See, so that's how it worked. And so what the bottom line is, if no one was doing what the Most High said, there wouldn't be any offering, because we all needed the rain in order for them to have the production. There wouldn't be any fruit from the trees and fields or nothing if there was no rain. And that came through fearing the Most High. So, production happened that way. So everyone had to be obedient. If I wasn't obedient as an Israelite or a Hebrew person and my family, and then the Most High says, well, your fields are not going to bring anything, I had nothing to give to the Levite. And then when the Levite didn't have anything to give, he wouldn't be able to give to Aaron. And then guess what? Everybody at that moment should have known, wait a minute, the production is down. We were at 5,000 gallons of wine last year. Now we only got 2,000. They supposed to look at it and oversee and be like, wait a minute, that's a problem. There must be why the Most High withheld it. Why? Because we've been breaking his laws. Somebody's sinning. We need to change this. So the leadership of the Leviim in the land was for several reasons, right? They did a lot of the health care. They did a zazarat. They did home inspections. They did redemption. They did a lot of different things. But the main thing that they were supposed to do is to make sure the children of Israel were being taught properly, because in order for them to eat, people would have to follow the laws of the Most High. Everybody. So you don't have nothing to offer if everybody's in rebellion against the Most High. So this is another reason why he had to get rid of them, the people that were rebelling against it, because it messes up the social order. You can't have people fighting for the position that the Most High has appointed. So the Most High appointed everything for Aaron and his sons. They get the best of everything. They get a lion's share. The Most High did split it, but he split it for them. You know what I mean? So they didn't like that. Now, when we talk about the best, everyone, when he says that I want the best, this is something I want to leave you with. Okay. The word for best is called Caleb. Okay. Consisting of three Hebrew letters, the Ket, the Lamed, and the Bet. And you know me, I love to find out what these letters mean, right? So each one of these letters right here, the Ket is the CH, that's this letter right here, and it means a wall. And the walls are used for separation and used for division and they're used for protection, because you put a wall up to keep the outside from the inside, okay? So that's very simple. And this is the reason why it kind of looks like a wall. When you look at the letter, on either side, it could be a wall. That could be the front of the wall. The other one could be the back of the wall. Who knows? Then you got the next letter, the Lamed, which means staff and authority, right? This is part of it, and it means guidance. And of course, you have the tent, right? Through the letter Bet, meaning tent, inside, and dwelling, right? So this means best. It means the best of everything, okay? So when we're talking about the best of everything, within the word for best, there's this word right here, called. And called means to begin. Okay, there's several other meanings, but I wanted to focus on the word to begin. So the first part here, these two letters right here means begin. That's part of your word Caleb, right here, Kale. Okay. Then after that, we have the word lave. Okay. And the Hebrew word for lave right here means mind, right? So the beginning of the mind. Listen to me. The beginning of the mind, the beginning of the authority, the beginning of the guidance to be led by the Most High through the staff, the beginning of the inner authority, because the inside authority is one's mind. Okay. The dwelling where you dwell at, right? It has to be guided by the Most High through the staff of the Most High. Okay. For your dwelling, for your place. So, what is it that the Most High is looking for? The Most High is looking for the best. And when you look for the best, what you're really looking for is the best choice. Okay. Remember, I told you this whole Torah portion is about choices, it's the decisions that we make. So, the best that he says I'm going to give to Aaron and the best that I'm going to give to Aaron and his sons is not just for Aaron and his sons, it's for us to understand what Yah's looking for. If Yah's going to give you the best, he's looking for the best from you. He's looking for the best you. He's looking for the choice. You're his choice. You're Yahweh's choice. Out of your family, Yah chose you. He chose you. Wait a minute, let me go back. He chose you. You're the choice. You're the caliph because of your mind. It's because you're inside authority. You've made your mind up that you're going to allow Yah to guide you, and you're going to dwell with the Most High. See, those who are only ones who can ever, and then because we're guiding, we're living with the Most High, we're going to dwell with Him. It means that we will be protected. It also means that we're going to be separated. We're going to be separated from everything else that's not the best. The tenth that's being set apart is the choice. It's the best. It's the fattest. It's the one, the choice that is made. So anytime, someone was choosing something, like for example, when they chose an animal, the choicest animal was the one that was the fattest animal. That's the one that they wanted. The reason why they wanted the one that was fat is because they know it was eating good and they knew it was healthy. Okay. So you and I are the choice. And because you are the choices and because you are the best of what Yah has, what he has out here, right? You don't go to the grocery store and pick the worst, you pick the best. Don't be mad at Yah because he chose you and he didn't choose nobody else in your family. Don't be mad at him because he chose Aaron and he didn't choose Kohat. And we think he chose Aaron just simply because it was a random choice. No, he chose him because he was the best choice. He chose Moshe because Moshe was the best choice. He chose Yehoshua because he was the best choice out of that family. He chose Caleb. They chose Caleb to go into the land of Serjah because he was the best choice for Judah. You're the best. You understand? You're the choice. So don't be mad at what Yah has selected. And if you didn't get chosen, don't be mad because Yah has the right to choose what he wants. It's like you do. You understand? So it's your choice. You could choose that which is good. And because you are the choice that Yah has made, then it's something that he sees in us that he requires of us. Like he chose Aaron, but he has a greater expectation of Aaron than he does everyone. He told Aaron, anything goes wrong, I'm holding you responsible. So it doesn't come without, any responsibility. I think Bruce had made mention about, they don't want to be accountable, right? Nobody wants to be accountable. They don't want to take responsibility. This is the reason why they do what they do, right? But when we're the ones that Yah chose, that means that you and I are going to have to make some good choices, and we're going to have to live our lives in a way that's pleasing to Him because He chose you. Okay? Don't feel bad about that. See? But again, it comes with a responsibility, comes with accountability. And a matter of fact, my last point that I did want to make mention is that while we're on this path, while we're going in this circle with the Most High, the reason why He chooses a circle, let me change this right quick. The reason why He chose us to go in circles, everyone, is because when you and I are going in circles, all right, we're going around and around and around and around and around and around. We just keep going in circles like they did in the wilderness. The reason why we're going in circles, and the reason why the Most High trains us in circles, because that's the way that an ox is trained. That's the way an ox is trained. That's the way a domesticated animal is trained. Before they can learn to go straight in a straight line, they first have to go in circles over and over again until they can follow the instructions. Until they can be trusted to go straight. When you go straight, that means that you're going to start plowing. You're going to start doing work. Right now, you and I want to do the work of Yah. And we're, a little, upset because he hasn't come back yet to get us, restore us, bring us back to our land. We want to do the work. And the Most High is saying, no, you're not ready yet. Because going in circles means that he's going to train you. He's training you by you going in circles in the Torah portions. Forget my writing. It's my finger. My pen's not working anymore. Train. And the training has to do with taming. In order to tame you, in order to train you, in order to discipline you, he has to have you go in circles first. And then after you go in circles, then you could do the work to go in a straight line. Then he can trust you and I to go straight. But right now, you're just going in circles. The work is going to come, and we don't know when, not right now. This is what we need to be focused on. Does that make sense? That's how you train something. Make it go in the same position every time. Because if you and I can't listen to his voice going in circles, then why do you think all of a sudden now we'll listen to his voice when he says go straight? You can't even do a circle. Now, let me ask you a question. What's easier? What's easier?
It seems to me going in a circle is like making us being redundant to,
Yeah.
could do it over and over and over again to where you know what to do. And then after you know what you do need to do, then I guess it'd be easier going straight because you didn't
Yes.
have so much practice, I'm guessing.
No, no, it's the truth because going straight, because these lines, when they use the oxen had to go straight, right? So the ox has to walk straight. If the oxen can't walk straight, right, then there's no reason to do the work. You see, the oxen has to go straight to its destination, to its mark, and it's being told what to do by the one who's riding it from behind. Who's okay? Go ahead, Kel.
Do you think that it just always had to be this way, that we had to do this process of going in circles to get to where we needed to go, or do you think that we could have actually done it at that time if we chose to when we didn't break the first covenant? I'm just trying to think like if this was always the plan or if we just got here because we went against the covenant.
No, it wasn't it wasn't. I wouldn't say it wasn't the plan. I would say it was the plan because the Most High, he knew who he's dealing with. When he came to get us, he said, "This is a stiff-necked people. I've been watching this people." So he knows it. And he's always, from what I read, he's always like saying, only if they would have done what I said, right? So it's a matter of willingness, right? So you can have an animal or a person, a husband or wife, a child or a servant or whatever it may be. It always boils down to whether or not they have a willingness to do it. And so the problem with us has been that we're not willing. Like we listen and we hear, but we don't have willingness. We haven't had a change of mind. We don't have a desire to do the work. We know what the work is and we probably could do it, but we don't have the desire to do it. That's the problem.
So that's why I'm thinking like he had to break us down to this point for us to be having the mindset, or I guess to come to a point where we did have a will, because we didn't have a will back then. So he kind of knew that we had to go this route in order to get us to the place where he wants us to be.
Yes. So that's a good point. The point is, okay, so when you're on a cycle, right? Because everything is cyclical, everything is going in a circle, right? So we're going in circles. It's like they were in the wilderness. Do you know every time we turn around, we had a what we call a vicious cycle where we go and we'll be delivered, then we get to our enemies. We be delivered, we go to our enemies. We deliver, we go to our enemies. So we've been on a very vicious cycle. So what we could do is now that we're deciding that we want to do what he says and we're willing to get rid of our idols, we can now break that cycle. We can break the cycle and we can create, but once we break that cycle, we can create another cycle, right? So the cycle that we're creating now is one that says, okay, well, we're going to meet these. I see your hand. I'm answer just a second. So what it is we have these markings, these places that we need to be, right? Like for example, these different colors that I'm putting up here are the times and seasons that we're meeting. And so if we can go in this circle that he has us on right now, right? And these different colors right here would be considered our Moedim, right? So there's 7 of them. So he's like, okay, well, I'm going to put them on these cycles and I'm going to see if they're going to meet them, right? If they're going to make sure that they meet these marks. And it's just kind of like, hey, let's find out if there's a willingness on their behalf to make it, right? So, you might start off here with the Pesach, and then here is the, matzah, and then here is the, first fruits. And do they recognize Shavuot? Do they do Yom Teruah? Do they do Yom Kippur? And will they do Sukkot? And then between each one of those, you have the little markings of the Sabbath days that they make every week. So we're doing annual and weekly, and then we just going from location to location, appointment to appointment to appointment to appointment. And when we're doing that, we're testifying and giving witness to the fact that we are on a cycle. and we acknowledge that cycle and we appreciate that cycle. So we're on a different cycle. So now that we're on this cycle that we're on right now, uh, even within that cycle that we've been on, he's had us go to different captivities. So the first one, of course, we know is Egypt. Then the next one might be, the Philistines. The next one is going to be the Moabs, and the next one that we're going is the Assyrians. And then after you finish with the Assyrians, we're going to go to the next one. We're going to go to the Babylonians. And then we go from the Babylonians, then we're going to go to the Greeks. And then we go from the Greeks, and then we're going to go to the Romans. And then we go from the Romans. You understand? Sister Azania, yes.
I just wanted to say you were talking about, the problems that we have among our people and just not obeying Yah, but about him choosing certain people. And I think that a lot of us, we still get, caught up in that false construct, like from the New Testament, and like where he has one anointed son or one anointed person, or even the prophets, and they're called to duty. But the truth is that all of us in his nation are called to serve him. Yeah. And when we start thinking about it like that, we can get rid of so much chaos because all of us are so important to him. And that's why we're all in this captivity, because everybody failed, just not one person. And so I see that there's some of us that quietly and easily follow these commands. And I notice even with my husband, how years ago when we first started this walk, we did hear things like you were talking about with family. Oh, well, you all don't serve this person or serve that person. But as the years have rolled by, and my husband has kept his presence in both my family and his, and our total family. And they look to him now for wisdom, because of his great compassion for these things, that keeping this Torah and yearning for righteousness that Yah has put in our home. Even though he's still not with us, he even says that he would be with us in a way. And I think people are beginning to see that. And that's the wonderful thing about worshiping him, because he's alive, he's eternal, and his presence, even in captivity, can be seen on us. Giving him all praise and thanks. He is our only salvation. Hallelujah. And thank you so much for the class. Hallelujah.
Praise Yah. Sister Sharon.
Hey, I think I know that voice from a TikTok channel that I subscribe to. Um, but I have to bring this out. It's in Ecclesiasticus, which is Sirach, and it helped me to understand that circle you were drawing and then the straight line. Because I felt like for 40 years, he took me in this circle, right? So it says, "For at the first she will walk with him by crooked ways and bring fear and dread upon him and torment him with her discipline until she may trust his soul and try him by her laws. Then will she return the straight way unto him and comfort him and show him her secrets." So that's how I get. Somebody was asking about, why are we in these circles? I think he's waiting till he can trust us to
Yes,
show us the straight way.
yes. That's profound. That's exactly what it is. We're not, listen, he doesn't trust us at this moment. He wants to see, he's testing us. He tests the righteous. And because of who he is, it demands that. And we should at least appreciate that and have some type of understanding of like, okay, well, why would you put, a people who have been against you, why would you all of a sudden give them your trust? He's not like that. That would defy who he is. He represents righteousness, holiness, equity. And so, putting us in those roles and responsibilities right now, we haven't been tested. We haven't been tried to find out whether or not we're worthy of that. And so the Most High doesn't make any mistakes, you know. And so, you know, the time that it's taken for us to get back to where we used to be, it might just take some time, and we need to wait on that. And there's a lot of things about ourselves that we need to really look at. And so, you know, I raised a question that I found in the Tehillim and the Psalms that talks about, you know, who's going to be able to ascend? Because that's ultimately what we want to do. I want us to be able to say, hey, am I going to be able to ascend? If you are, then you're going to have innocence of hands. You're going to have a mind of purity. And those are the challenges that face us, right? There's a lot of changes that we need to make. Yes, Kel.
Yeah, I'm just here thinking while everyone's talking. Um, so do you think that he chose Israel because we were the only people or the only nation or tribe that he would see that could fulfill everything that he wanted to? Because I know we're like a stubborn, stiff-necked people, but I'm thinking that even the other people, other nations around that time were even more like worse off than us because he chose us instead of them.
Well, he says, according to his word, he says that if I went to another nation, they would listen to me.
So I was thinking about that too then. So there's two ways that I'm thinking about this. Like he either picked the best or he picked the worst.
Well, here's the deal. He picked the worst in order to bring out the best.
Mm.
He picked the worst in order to bring out the. He said, I didn't choose you because you're the strongest. I didn't choose you because you're the mightiest. I didn't choose you because you're the most numerous. I didn't choose you for those reasons. Y'all knew what he was getting when he got us. It's a challenge, right? It's like, okay, look, and he talks about how he's going to be glorified through us, right? So why not choose a people that are rebellious, stiff neck, disobedient, idolatrous, right? They won't surrender. They won't give in. Not at this time. They got to go through a whole bunch of stuff. I got to give some context to them. I'll deliver them from their slavery and everything, and they still desire to be a slave because they don't want to do the work. They don't want to do the work that I'm asking them to. Wouldn't it be
So
greater? Yeah, go
so
ahead.
if I put this into a perspective, if it's like if he chose the Edomites, which are is Jacob's, you know, twin brother, if he chose them, you think they would have followed the covenant if he gave it to them?
No, he didn't choose, but here's the thing. He didn't choose them for that very reason. He does listen, he said that I love Jacob and I hated Esau. And he says, "It's not, you know, Jacob Esau's brother." And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, I chose Jacob. The reason why he chose us is because there's some now. Let me not get this twisted. Jacob is very, very strong. He has a strong will. So there's things about us that the Most High really likes about us, right? We have a strong will. We have a strong determination. People in our family and our lines are like Reuven and Shimon and Levi. They were instinctively, you know, will they were cruel, right? They were cruel people. They were willing to sell their brother, willing to kill their own brother. These people were nuts, okay? And they had a lot of problems internally, right, as a family. But Yah can take that. He takes the worst and he uses it to the good. It's interesting. I don't understand everything and why the Most High has made his decisions, but I know from what I'm reading is that he'll take people who have speech impediments, like Moshe. He'll take someone like Aaron, who will compromise, and at one point, and who'll be pushed by the people. He'll choose someone like Saul, who he knew was going to not work out for the people, and still give him an opportunity. He'll choose individuals who, like Jeremiah, who said, I'm just a child. I don't know. You know, I'm just a kid. I can't say anything. He chooses whoever he wants in his decisions. But the fact of the matter is that what he's looking for a people that he can trust, and he's looking for a people to trust him, and he's looking for people who have a willingness to follow what he says, right? And there are bad things about us, but he can turn around and use those things to our benefit. That's what he's been doing. He's used all of our exiles to turn us around. He's using all these different times and our oppressions to get us to change our minds. We can be literally the people that will allow our families to continue to exist. He's only looking for one. Anybody could do that. Not everyone is going to do this, right? That's what it is. Like Caleb and Joshua, out of the 600 some thousand soldiers, only those two survived. Out of millions of people, only Noah and his sons survived, and their daughters and wives. So it's not in a quantity, it's in a quality. That's what the Most High is looking for in any type of setting, whether it be a vegetable garden, whether it be in a vineyard, wherever it may be. It's always looking for the best. He's looking for the best, and he's willing to wait for it. So there is something good about us, even though there's all this bad stuff. There's always something good in us. There's nothing all bad. There's some good stuff in us, and because of that, you and I need to start recognizing that when we look at people and we have people around us that are not doing what he says, I'm not just saying we'll call them evil. Yeah, they're wicked. We know that we used to be wicked. But try to find the good and and be patient and wait for it. Wait for see if something happens. Like Azania mentioned, Elder Billy says people in their family were saying stuff at first, and all of a sudden now they're asking for counsel. It happens. You see, you know. I was waiting for this tree, this bush to grow and get some flower. Guess what? It's starting to flower. I had to wait. I had to wait for it. Blooming. Sometimes things take a little bit longer, you see. But there is some good in us, Kel, and there's a variety of reasons why the Most High chose us. I'm only mentioning the ones that I know about. Yes.
Okay, so now that we're here, in exile, it's been thousands of years since those tribes have been on the land. So we